How's it going, folks? This is Stephen Mullen doing another best ball draft. Today we're doing the mini best ball championship. So this is the $5 entry, $200,000 prize pool draft. And as you know by now, I write a best ball specific blog for Big Dogs Fantasy. And we'll be releasing a blog today that's about best ball championship MVPs, looking at the ones from last year and the guys that I think can be the MVPs of these bigger tournaments this season. We're going to see if we can get a few of those guys in this draft here. So looking like we're pick number 6. This is very likely to be either Melvin Gordon or DeAndre Hopkins for us. Some percent chance we would decide to take David Johnson. Not too sure about that just yet. So stupid draft's going to freeze. Oh, it didn't freeze when I first started. Excellent. Usually it freezes up when the clock hits 0. So after I make my first pick, we'll talk a little bit about the Big Dogs draft guide that's coming out. Actually, is out now. Barkley McCaffrey 1-2. Nothing too surprising there. I do like Zeke at 2 now that, or 1 even, now that he's clear of the suspension. It's a pretty tough pick. Well, I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins here. I'm just not that high on David Johnson, and Hopkins is my favorite wide receiver. So Big Dogs has released their draft guide and has a lot of great info in there. It's got stuff like market share projections and red zone projections, as well as it has actual doctors that are writing reviews on all the injuries guys are trying to recover from. So there's a ton of extra info in there that you don't get from normal draft guides. So go check that out. And in round 2 here, since we took Hopkins, I'm kind of hoping to either get Dalvin Cook or Nick Chubb with my pick. In round 2. Somebody I'm super off of right now is Le'Veon Bell, especially just like all the Jets I don't really want at all. So we got a new article out today about the best ball MVPs. Next week, we're going to be doing a complete breakdown of quarterbacks. So it's going to be like literally everything you can imagine. It's going to be tiers, rankings, injury risks, stack options, and ownership percentages. All of that for all of the quarterbacks that are on my list to draft. So Chubb going at the 2-1 is super annoying for us. That's somebody I was very interested in around 2. So now there's like no chance Dalvin Cook makes it back to us. So I think we're going to end up having to target Damian Williams in round 2, which is not my favorite. Definitely wouldn't, like if Beckham or Schuster were there, I would take them over Damian Williams, but I wouldn't take Brown or Evans over him. This is going to be brutal if like Le'Veon Bell is the running back left on the board for us. I just don't want any of him. Someone take Le'Veon Bell. This could even be like one of the, thank God, the spots that we get stuck taking, considering taking Gurley, but I don't like that either. I'm going to draft 5 of these, so I don't like completely hate having Gurley on 1, but not really like trying to do that either. Yeah, Dalvin Cook going there is just absolutely brutal for us. All right, so I actually am pretty happy to get Smith-Schuster there, even though we don't get to pick a running back. So we started wide receiver. That is an argument for taking David Johnson at 6. It's just not for me. So in round 3, we aren't like forced to take a running back, but if it's at all close, we're gonna lean towards running back. I don't really see a whole lot of situations where it could be close. So like the guys I'm going to be looking for at this pick, because Marlon Mack won't be there, are Kerryon Johnson or Derrick Henry. Other than that, I'm just like, I don't want Leonard Fournette. I don't really want Devonta Freeman. I don't want Josh Jacobs. I guess Aaron Jones is somewhat a thought too if all of the running backs we like happen to go. If either of the two big tight ends are on the board, that's a consideration for us. Yeah, not super interested in the top wide receivers there right now, just because we already have Hopkins and Juju. But that's not to say if everything broke the worst, we wouldn't take one. Stuff like Ertz, Henry, Aaron Jones, and Kerryon Johnson went off the board, and I think we'd probably take a wide receiver. So after this pick, we'll talk a little bit about roster construction again. Yeah. Huh. So we are getting pretty destroyed on running backs. Might have to go with some sort of zero RB strategy, which we do have up our sleeve. Just really wouldn't. Just not Kerryon Johnson, please. Not Kerryon Johnson, please. Not Kerryon Johnson. Phew. All right, so I now at least feel good about the first running back I'm picking. I don't mean I don't feel good about Kerryon Johnson being your first running back, but I feel good about Kerryon Johnson, and he is my first running back, so that's nice. Whoa, David Montgomery at the 3-7. He is climbing. That is a little bit crazy for me. I have tons and tons and tons of David Montgomery. He's one of the guys I have at 25% ownership. Let's talk about ownership percentages a bit. So the guys rounds 1 through 9, the most I will be comfortable owning somebody that I pick in the 1 through 9 rounds is 25%. So in these leagues, there's 12 teams, right? So the average that a guy has owned is 8.3%. So if you own 8% of a guy, you own him, basically you have 1 share to every opponent's 1 share. If you own a guy 12%, you have 1.5 shares to their 1 share, because 1 share is 8%. So 25% compared to 8.3 is 3 times, right? So at 25%, you have 3 shares to the average 1. And that is insane. Darrell Henderson just went around 3. That person is absolutely crazy. So anyway, I don't even remember what I was talking about, because that was just lunacy. Okay, so 25% is you own a guy 3-1. And a lot of people, sometimes you'll hear me talk about 3% is like my minimum. That's like what I own of the guys I hate the most, guys I'm just not into this year. So even at 3%, which seems like, you only own them on 3 out of 100 teams, but you still own 1 share to every 3 shares that your opponents have, right? So it's like, it's not that bad. You own one share to every 3 shares that the average team owns. It's getting pretty interesting when it gets to our pick here. Might have to give some consideration to taking Mahomes if he's there, which I wouldn't love. The running backs at this point, I'm just not taking Kenyon Drake there. I'd rather roll the dice on getting somebody else later. Could consider Kenyon Drake there, but wouldn't be super high on it. One reason why I kind of don't want to take Mahomes here, if he falls to us, is because we have DeAndre Hopkins, so I'd much rather take Deshaun Watson around 6 to have the stack, especially in the playoffs when you need to win every week. If you can go through a little period of time where your guys are going off together, they correlate. Well, let's pick, I think, It's going to be kind of, I mean, I think we might be forced to take Kenyon Drake here. Yeah, I mean, I think Mahomes is the best pick here, but I think because we have Hopkins, I'd rather wait and try and get Deshaun Watson around 6. And I have Kenyon Drake above Lindsay and Ingram and Michelle. So starting off with 2 bye week 5 RBs. Not fantastic. Also not horrible. Not terrible. I wonder how different this draft would look if we took David Johnson, right? So we take David Johnson, we get Juju. So I would have taken Robert Woods with that pick. If I took David Johnson, my team would be David Johnson, Juju, Kerryon Johnson, Robert Woods. Instead, we have Hopkins, Juju, Kerryon Johnson, Kenyon Drake. I don't really think there's that much difference between the two teams. So Sony Michel is a guy I'm not super duper interested in, but we could consider with our next pick here. So let's talk about roster construction. You've heard me say a few times that 6 running backs and 7 wide receivers produces the most optimal win percentage. A lot of people still want to draft 6 running backs and 8 wide receivers, even though the numbers show that that's not optimal. But I think the reason for this, okay, so we're probably taking Mike Williams or Calvin Ridley if one falls to us. Ugh, I had to open my mouth. Okay. Whew. That's nice. Getting Calvin Ridley mid-round 5 is good. So getting back to that, yes, 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers. So a lot of people end up wanting to go with 6 running backs and 8 wide receivers because they feel like, I don't know, somehow that's better, even though the numbers go against it. And this is a whole bunch of different people that have been sending me teams and asking questions and stuff like that. So it's not just one person, but so the reason why the percentages are lower that way is when you think about it. So if you only go with 2 quarterbacks and you only go with 2 tight ends, right? That means just one injury to any of those 4 players massively affects your team, right? Because when you get down to only one guy at a position, you have to take all of their bad weeks and then, their bye weeks, and it just starts to snowball where if your other guy isn't performing at the highest of levels, you're just getting crushed. So you need 4 guys basically to not get hurt if you only have 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. Now, if you have 3 of one position, so say you have 3 tight ends, right? You can now absorb a tight end injury and it not really be that big of a deal to you. So instead of getting completely wrecked by a tight end injury, now a tight end injury doesn't really matter to you that much. So you really only need not your 2 quarterbacks to get hurt, right? So instead of not needing 4 guys to get hurt, you only need 2. Wow. We did not get Deshaun Watson around 6. That is absolute brutality. So basically, if you go two quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, you need 4 guys not to get hurt. If you go with 3 of either position, you only need 2 guys not to get hurt. So you're improving it by, 100% from 2 to 4. Rashad Penny went. That's somebody I would definitely have picked on my pick. So we got pinched on Watson. I think that just picking 6 was really tough. I mean, we just didn't have a whole lot of good choices at any point. We could, like... Is Luck the only tier? Okay, Rogers is still on board, too. So, it gets to us here... Could take Lamar Miller. Not super into that. I could take Aaron Rodgers or Luck. I'm not like really into that either. Could take Hunter Henry as like the only tight end left on the board I really like. Yeah. See, like normally I would be pretty thrilled to take Lamar Miller here in a normal league, but this being a best ball championship league, I just like Lamar Miller's upside is so low that it's, my interest level is low. So from a raw point standpoint, obviously it's much better to take a tier 1 quarterback there than a tier 2 tight end. And that's kind of what my 0 tight end strategy was built off from. But the fact that there's not 0, that there is some chance that one of those quarterbacks could make it back to us, you know, I'd like to leave it open for that possibility to happen. I also think taking Tyler Boyd there would have been fine for us. Not really into Kupp. I would definitely had been down for Lamar Miller if it was a regular league and not a best ball championship league. But again, he's just one of those guys that has such little upside that I'm not that interested in it. So who are we going to be looking at with our next pick? For receivers, I would definitely have Christian Kirk on my radar. Aaron Rodgers is on my radar. Tyler Boyd is on my radar. Christian Kirk is off my radar. See, Geis is a guy that I don't really like in normal leagues that I really like in the championship type leagues. Just because, like, even if Geis starts off in some sort of timeshare, if he can, like, work his way into the number 1 role in Washington, by the time, you know, provided your team wins the 12-week tournament to make it to the knockout rounds, he could be a guy that's really producing at a high level for you on those knockout rounds. So I like Geis as like a later in the year player more than I do an early in the year player. But we're gonna like have another like really tough pick when it gets to us, I think. So I'm gonna make at least one more video of these today because I'm gonna do 5 drafts of this league. So you'll be able to see all the drafts posted on my Twitter and my Instagram. So if you look in the description down below this video, you'll find a link to the Twitter, a link to the Instagram. You will also find a link to the new MVPs article, which will be released. Kiki Cutie at 7.2. No thank you. Honestly, don't even have a clue who I'm going to like take at this pick. Could be like a Geis or a Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders also has like an insane end of the year. I think everyone I've mentioned has been immediately taken one. I don't. So Aaron Rodgers going is really terrible for us. You just got to take Miles Sanders here. So Philly has this like incredible end of year schedule where they basically like don't play any good teams. So if Sanders can fight his way to being the starter by the time the best ball championships roll around, he's actually one of the guys I like quite a bit better in the best ball championships than I do in the normal drafts. I would not have made that pick in the normal drafts. So we do have Calvin Ridley, so Matt Ryan's a bit on our radar. We got Juju for Sobenas, Hunter Henry. Will Fuller's obviously a very good best ball championship type guy. So Matt Ryan is a quarterback we would give consideration to if he was still there when it's our pick. I'm not super interested in a tight end right now, but kind of depends how crazy people get about leaving them too. There comes a point where just like taking your second tight end so you have 2 really good ones and cutting off a whole bunch of teams from having the option becomes like a reasonable strategy, but it really just depends who the other players on the board are. So Matt Ryan went. It's fine. Our interest in him was sort of lukewarm. Doesn't look like we'll be taking a quarterback anytime soon. Since like the current quarterbacks on my radar are Roethlisberger and Rivers to pair with guys we've already got. There is always the option of going Wentz. He's a guy I like above his draft position. Kyler Murray is another one. He's one of the guys I like a lot as far as MVP possibilities go. Yeah, I guess I wish I took Aaron Rodgers where I took Hunter Henry. Because like likely we'd be able to get one of these tight ends to go with Aaron Rodgers. So that was definitely a mistake, and that's why I'd come up with the whole 0 tight end strategy, was to not make that mistake. But it is done, and we must work from here now. Jordan Howard. It was like a strange pick for that guy. Just like he's been taking all like the upside type guys super early, and then he was just like, nah, I'll just like take Jordan Howard in round 8. Okay. So let's take a look at our team. We've got Kerryon Johnson, Kenyon Drake, and Miles Sanders for running backs. Got Hopkins, Schuster, and Calvin Ridley for wide receivers, which is awesome. Our pick here is either going to be Marvin Jones or Kyler Murray. There is also the Green Bay guys, but this guy's deep in the tank. We're take one of the Green Bay guys. We're going to take Marvin Jones here and be pretty happy about that as our 4th wide receiver. So these tight ends are lasting even longer and longer and longer. Is there anyone we have a bunch of interest in on the way back? Not necessarily. Some interest in Kyler Murray or Carson Wentz. If we get Wentz, we're probably not going to be able to get Deshaun Jackson, so I think I'd rather just keep waiting on quarterback. Like, I have Wentz in tier 2 near the top. I have Roethlisberger tier 2 at the end, Rivers in tier 3, so rather just wait a round or 2 and get the guy that goes with Juju. Vance McDonald's still on the board. So we literally can take like anything right now. We've got 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, tight end, no quarterback yet. Damian Harris off the board. It's a little early for him. I'm hoping somebody takes Vance McDonald before us, but if they don't, I think that we can consider taking him here. Good. I think that, no, I thought that guy was going to time out. So I'm not very interested in Corey Davis. I'd be a lot more interested in Wentz if I thought there was any chance we could get Deshaun Jackson too, and we can. I'm going to just go ahead and take my second tight end here and take Vance, especially because we're going to be targeting Ben Roethlisberger in a couple of rounds, and that would give us Vance and Juju to go with Ben. A lot of people have been projected to have the most passing attempts this season, which is a nice thing. But how successful he's going to be, different question. So we definitely play the waiting game here with the quarterbacks. Yeah, see Deshaun Jackson with the pick after Carson Wentz. I'd rather take Carson Wentz on a different team, like one where I'm going to have Ertz or Jeffrey, then picked him up here. It would be different if just there wasn't another quarterback in his tier that I kind of specifically would want for stacking purposes. But so you don't want to get too crazy about these stacking things, but at the same time, it just getting Vance McDonald and having Henry Vance McDonald, I'm going to have a huge advantage at tight end over a lot of teams, and we got to find a way to work our way into the playoffs. At which point I think Miles Sanders would probably actually be a thing. Be vastly better than he will be to start the year. It's definitely not going to look to take Ben with my next pick, but I might look to take him with the pick after my next pick. So I'm looking for somebody and then Ben. Might make a pretty early pull here because there's somebody I really don't want to miss out on. I'm not saying their name because obviously these people are listening to me and just taking whoever I say. That's not happening. But there is a guy that I want a ton. And since I'm taking Ben in round 11, I don't want to leave that guy. I'm going to try to take Ben in round 11. I don't want to leave that guy for round 12. Because I think he would get Tyler Eifert. What? Okay. This fantasy QB guy has made some questionable choices, I feel like. He has 7 running backs and 3 tight ends. This is not how you build your team. This team is going to be bad. Jared Cook, Jordan Reed, Tyler Eifert. No wide receivers. No. People do some weird stuff on these. This is definitely some weird stuff. So let's not mention the guy that I want to take, so that he doesn't get sniped on us here. Nice. So I don't trust Justice Hill to last till round 12, and I kind of want to take Ben Roethlisberger next round. So if Ben Roethlisberger goes, it's not the hugest deal in the world, but I think we can afford to wait for him. Maybe not. We will see. Basically, I have Ben as my last tier 2 QB. We could even push it another round, I think, if we really want to. Depends if some of these other quarterbacks start going or don't start going. What our other options on the board are. Would I wait around for Ben to get Golden Tate or Peyton Barber? Maybe. Peyton Barber is also a guy I don't care for as much in these as I do in the regular, where you're trying to, any place 1 through 4 pays you in a regular, whereas this, you're really only looking to be in first place. So I think guys like Tate and Barber are not quite as good. Still Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert available at tight end. We don't really need a tight end for any reason, but Yeah. For stacking purposes, I really want Ben, so I'm just going to take him now. Like, I like Newton and Winston more, but I have them both as tier 2 quarterbacks too, albeit higher up than Ben. But they're also both by week 7, so I can't like take one and then hope to get Ben. So I'm pretty chill with just taking him there. It was a non-best ball championship league. Who would I have taken there? Probably Golden Tate, because I like him a lot more in those type of leagues. I just feel like he can't help you a ton in this type of league, where you're really only shooting for first out of 12. And the reason why I grabbed Ben there too is because I figured, there's gonna be a QB run here, so get the one that you want, the one that correlates best with your guys. So people of interest to me right now: Tate, Tyrell, Traquan, Ito, Mark Andrews, Goddard, like basically all the guys at the top of this list. How about for quarterbacks? We could go 2 tight end with our group, so somebody like Lamar Jackson is a little bit interesting. So we've got Hunter Henry and Vance. Vance is definitely among my I'm not comfortable owning 2 tight ends when I own him group because of this concussion history. So we're going to lean going 3 tight ends. Dallas Goedert still on the board is kind of interesting. Around 11, 12. So if Ertz were to go down, Goddard would be awesome. And I do realize we have Hunter Henry, so we don't necessarily like need that. But like those 2 guys could be so good that they start getting flex play for you if something were to happen to Ertz. Mark Andrews is also somebody I have a decent amount of interest in. Traquan, I like a decent amount. If Golden Tate were to like still be there when we picked it, I'd have interest. Ito, I have interest in. Drew Brees went. Kind of glad Goddard went, so now I don't have to like even think about that. Hey, the like guy with 7 running backs finally took a wide receiver. His number 1 wide receiver is Deshaun Hamilton. Right. His number 2 wide receiver is Kenny Stills. Trubisky off the board. So we're going to do a few of these articles with a complete breakdown of the positions and rankings and tiers and all that. I'm going to take Ito here. I think he's the best player on the board by a decent enough margin. Also gives us 5 running backs, which is nice, especially since there isn't any of them I hate. Miles Sanders probably is also going to have kind of a weak start to the season, so having a guy like Ito that's involved is nice. I feel like Justice Hill will be involved like pretty much right away too, so I guess we'll take a look at the team here. We've got Big Ben as our only quarterback so far. Is there anybody so we can look to grab a Rivers or a Stafford later. We have things that correlate with those guys. Got Kerryon and Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, Justice Hill, and Ito Smith at running back. I like our running back situation enough, considering, it felt like we got really pinched there, but now it's like it's pretty decent. So tight ends, we have Henry and Vance McDonald, which is fantastic, especially since probably got another guy to that at some point here. And our wide receivers, top 4 are great: Hopkins, Smith-Schuster, Ridley, and Marvin Jones. So all in all, I think this team is pretty good. like, how would this team win this thing and win $20,000? It would probably need Kerryon Johnson and Kenyon Drake to both hit ceilings. Short of that, probably doesn't happen. I don't feel compelled to get Rivers just because I have Hunter Henry. So definitely wait and take a Stafford or a Carr or something later. So we'll see how it goes. He was picked before us, so it's not even a concern for us anymore. There's one guy on this board I definitely want the most. Nice. So this is the guy I wanted the most that was left on the board. Anthony Miller. Quite a few touchdowns as a rookie, 7. Definitely think there's some room to move up, especially since the number 1 wide receiver on the team, Allen Robinson, hasn't really performed like a number 1. So yeah, I'll probably do this video and then do one off camera while I'm getting this one put up and all the info out on Twitter and whatnot, and then do one more of these after that. I'm also going to be starting to write up the quarterback article today. It's 4:30, so yeah, I'll probably do 2 more of these drafts and then get into writing up that article for next week. This pick 6 was definitely rough. I think it's I just have a hard time taking David Johnson up there, but could be fine. A lot of the times I take Hopkins 6th, I just don't get Deshaun Watson in round 6, which is where I'm willing to move him up a half a round. I like taking him in round 7, but I'm willing to take him in round 6. And it just feels like every draft that I take Hopkins, he's gone when I pick in round 6. And then when I never have Hopkins, he's there every time. So it's kind of frustrating. Where are we at on quarterbacks? All we have is Big Ben. Consider taking Stafford with our next pick. There are many tight ends left on the board. Also really like Devin Singletary quite a bit. Wouldn't hate throwing one more running back in there. If Devin Singletary is there, he's a consideration. The only quarterbacks I have left from my tier 3 are Carr and Stafford, so I really would rather not pass on them since I'm only gonna plan to take 2 quarterbacks. I guess I could go back to 2 tight ends, but with Vance McDonald, I don't know. That's not something I want to do with Vance McDonald. I think giving up the value of Devin Singletary. Could gamble. It's always an option. Andy Dalton. So we would need one of those 2 quarterbacks to make it back to us. I think likely one would. And even if not, yeah. All right, folks, we're going to gamble pretty big here. Take down Singletary. So we don't need any more running backs. Could get the hard pinch on quarterbacks here. The hard pinch. We end up having to go with Nick Foles as our second quarterback. we'll see how things go. I really just loved the value on Devin Singletary there, so I was willing to take a pretty big chance. So Foles is kind of like my bottom guy for this. If Carr, Stafford, and Foles all go, then I will feel like I made a mistake. If either Carr or Stafford are there when I pick, then I will feel like we have made the best decision possible last round. So between Carr and Stafford, I would slightly rather have Stafford because I have Marvin Jones, but we are not going to be picky, and we are going to be happy to just get one of those two guys. Right. That's nice. So Stafford and Big Ben as our quarterbacks is not fantastic, but it could possibly be worse, that's for sure. Still looking at picking up another tight end, possibly a quarterback if we want. We still don't have to make that decision until it comes. So we got Hunter Henry and Vance McDonald. Then we have Ben and Stafford. Well, I think that the chances that either Henry or Vance McDonald get hurt is much greater than Ben or Stafford. So we are going to look to grab another tight end. And then 2 wide receivers. There are a few wide receivers I like at the very ends of these drafts, so that have a lot of upside. Ooh, I'm gonna get to pull one out of the deep bag here, I think, for a last round pick. Guy I really, really, really like, but I don't like him nearly as much in the regulars as I do in the best ball championship type drafts. Josh Gordon's another guy on that crew. A little interesting if Derek Carr was still there when we picked. I kind of hope that he's not. What do we do if Derek Carr is there and Darren Waller is gone? Do we still go 3 tight ends then? I think the answer would be no. God, these picks take forever. Let's look at this fantasy QB guy that took 7 straight running backs. Sorry, he still doesn't even have a quarterback on his team. It's got Deshaun Hamilton, Kenny Stills, John Brown, Zay Jones, Trey Quinn as his wide receivers. There's a pretty suspect group of tight ends, especially since Eifert and Jared Cook are both by week 9s. So if Jordan Reed is hurt for week 9, which is likely to be the case, he's taken a 0 at tight end week 9. He does have, some running backs. Just 1 or 200 of them. And no quarterbacks on his roster at all. So I'm probably not taking. Well, I shouldn't say that. But. Rashad Perryman. Huh. No, thank you. So Jalen Richard I like quite a bit, but we don't need any more running backs. So every running back that gets drafted is A-okay with me. Don't want Randall Cobb, so that's okay with me. So this pick's gonna kind of decide what we do. If this guy takes Waller, I'm probably just going to take Derek Carr. If this guy takes Derek Carr, I'm probably going to take Waller. And this is probably going to be the point where we decide if we're going 3 quarterbacks or 3 tight ends. If this guy takes neither, going to take Darren Waller. There. All right. We have ourselves a Darren Waller. So our tight ends are Hunter Henry, Vance McDonald, Darren Waller. Feeling pretty good about that. So I like pretty much everything about our team with the exception of quarterbacks. So I think the one mistake I made in this draft was the round I took Hunter Henry. I should have taken Aaron Rodgers, and that kind of led us down the path that we went down. Had I done that, I probably would have ended up with like almost no correlation for Aaron Rodgers, but that would have been fine. You're not like these stacks and correlations don't matter that much. It matters more to have, the best players possible. But you also want to be doing these things when you can. Josh Gordon off the board. Kind of hope somebody takes, Derek Carr before this guy with this insane 7 straight running backs will start off team. Wait, he doesn't get to have Derek Carr. It'd be kind of interesting if Derek Carr were there when we picked. Like, be so much value in blocking that guy and taking the last quarterback of tier 3 for me, but I preach how the math is the math. The math says that we can't do that we need to take wide receivers with our last 2 picks, especially since my very last round pick of wide receiver is going to be a guy that could kind of do nothing or be incredibly awesome. And I think he's another guy that is way better in the best ball championships because at the very end of the year is when he could be doing the most of his stuff. Nick Foles before Derek Carr. Generally here I like to take A.J. Brown. I feel like he has a ton of upside and that he's kind of safe and like that he'll have some sort of role for the Titans. And we'll get to make our spicy pick in the last round and we'll be all done with this one. So yeah, if you guys enjoy the video, give it a like. Feel free to comment on telling me I'm a moron for taking Hunter Henry when I should have taken Aaron Rodgers, and I think that was round 6. It's good to like make these videos because I don't know, it's easy to like make mistakes like that when you're off camera and just not really think much about it. But when you're on, everybody's like, yeah, that was pretty terrible. So there's 2 last round guys that I think are pretty spicy, but I have a specific one in mind that I haven't drafted in a long time that I really, really like, and specifically in these best ball championship leagues, way more than I like him in the regular leagues. Yeah, Fantasy QB did end up getting Derek Carr, so I think that's really rough for the rest of the league that we kind of allowed that to happen. There's nothing I could really do to stop it. If Darren Waller had gone, I would have taken Carr and stopped it just because at that point Carr would have been just like so much more valuable a quarterback than any tight end was a tight end, but I like Waller quite a bit. So I'm pretty sure that nobody's going to take my guy at wide receiver. I've only seen somebody else draft him once. I have 5 or 6% of him in regular leagues, I don't mind that. I have them targeted for 5%, but these championship things definitely think he'd be pretty sweet. So the guy we're going to take, if he's not taken when it gets to us, is Jalen Hurd of the 49ers. He has no like defined role, so he really like could do nothing. Who knows? But I don't think they picked him up to do nothing, and I trust Shanahan. And this guy is like can do everything. He can be a running back, he can be a wide receiver, he can be in on gadget plays. He's by far the biggest running back on the roster. Could end up as the goal line running back. So, fantasy QB for not taking a quarterback until the last 2 rounds. Ended up with Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota, which is like not fantastic, but I mean, if you're not taking a quarterback till round 17 and 18, this sure isn't bad. So, how many? He ended up with 7 running backs, 6 wide receivers. Not too bad. Seems like most of the people in here have decent roster constructions. McDorsett only has 4 running backs. And Puma Khan only has 4 running backs. So at most, those guys will only end up with 5. So let's look who the 4 are. McCaffrey, Mack, Harris, and Derrick Henry. Seems like reasonably safe. Who was the other one? Dorsett. He has Kamara, Phillip Lindsay, Lamar Miller, Peyton Barber. Not terrible. Ooh, DJ Shark. He was the other guy when I was saying that there's 2 spicy ones I might want. He was the actual other guy that I was thinking of. So, we all done. Let's take a look at our team. So, yeah, we had a couple big decisions in this draft. DeAndre Hopkins or David Johnson. I took Hopkins. Don't really regret that one. Hunter Henry or Aaron Rodgers. Took Hunter Henry. Definitely regret that one. Guys I like specifically in these best ball championships more than, the normal leagues are the guys that I think will have much stronger value late in the season. I mean, you still do have to win your league, but I think this team definitely has a possible. This team could win the league through weeks 1 through 12. Definitely needs Kerryon Johnson, Kenyon Drake to be, fantastic for that to happen. They're both by week 5, which is kind of cool. So the reason why that's neat for us is like if we can get by that week and just somehow get you some decent performances from like Justice Hill, maybe get a long touchdown, Ito Smith have like a 6-catch, 60-yard game, and maybe a touchdown, like something like that week. We can just eke by that week. We can, be at full force with those 2 starters every other week. So our running backs I like quite a bit considering our wide receivers are just fucking awesome. Tight end is pretty awesome with Waller and Vance McDonald and Hunter Henry. So quarterback is the only position that I'm like kind of down on in this draft. Well, hope you liked the video. There'll be another one coming up in a couple hours. And good luck. Hopefully one of y'all wins the $20,000 first prize on this contest.